to News Hour on Voice of the People TV. I am Vivian Oguche. Before we begin the news, kindly visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending news. Here are the headlines. Benue declares Wednesday work-free day. Senate leadership to accompany Tinubu to Benue. The Speaker orders immediate release of arrested protesters. And Niger government says 700 persons still missing after Mokwa floods. Court orders substituted service on INEC chairman. In possession, Pastor Paul Adefarasin turns self in at Lagos Police headquarters. On the foreign scene, US sends warplanes, aircraft carrier to Middle East. And in business news, Ipman wants new fee may trigger petrol price hike in Lagos. In sports news, NFF launches Mission X campaign for Super Falcons. And in the world of entertainment, R. Kelly hospitalized after near-fatal overdose in prison. And now the news in detail. The Benue State government has declared Wednesday, June 18, a work-free day to honor President Bola Tinubu, who is scheduled for a one-day visit to the state. The declaration was announced in a statement by Secretary to the State Government, Deborah Abba, in Makurdi. She noted in the statement that essential services providers like health workers, security agencies, and banks are exempt from the holiday. Abba went on to urge Benue residents to come out to receive the president and his entourage. Meanwhile, the Senate leadership says it will accompany President Bola Tinubu to Benue State to condole with the people of Yelewata village over the massacre of their kinsmen by suspected herdsmen recently. The chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, disclosed while briefing journalists on the activities of the Senate in the last 2 years. Adaramodu said, beyond paying condolence visits, whenever there are major attacks, the Senate had perfected strategies in collaboration with the executive to end mass killings across the country. Staying with Benue State, Governor Hyacinth Alia has rejected calls for self-defense by residents following the latest wave of brutal attacks in the state, instead urging communities to support the establishment of a more robust community policing system. Speaking in a television interview after renewed violence in parts of Benue, where over 200 people were reportedly killed in coordinated attacks across several local government areas, Governor Alia appealed for calm and warned against emotionally driven responses that could escalate insecurity. Governor Alia emphasized that external security forces may lack the local understanding necessary to respond swiftly to such attacks. In the meantime, the Speaker of the Benue State House of Assembly, Aundona Dajo, has ordered the immediate release of all youths arrested during recent protests across the state. The directive was issued during an emergency plenary session convened in response to mounting public criticism over the detention of citizens who participated in demonstrations against the ongoing insecurity in parts of the state. Speaking on the floor of the Assembly, Speaker Dajo reaffirmed the legislature's commitment to democratic principles and the constitutional rights of all Benue citizens. Dajo further called on security agencies to respect the rights of peaceful demonstrators and ensure that future engagements with the public are carried out with professionalism and restraint. The Assembly pledged to investigate the circumstances surrounding the arrests and to engage relevant authorities to prevent a recurrence. The Assembly also called on Governor Hyacinth Alia to ensure the full implementation of the Open Grazing Prohibition and Ranches Establishment Law of 2017 as a means to end the persistent killings of innocent residents by armed herdsmen across the state. The House issued a strong condemnation of the recent coordinated attacks, describing them as acts of terrorism, genocide, and ethnic cleansing, particularly in Yelewata, Guma local government area. Well, staying with Benue State, the State House of Assembly has lifted the suspension of 6 out of the 13 members suspended on the 19th of February. The members were reportedly suspended for organizing a press conference outside the confines of the Assembly. The lifting of the suspension followed a motion moved by the Majority Leader, Saati Etese, urging the lawmakers to review the suspension of the suspended members. Speaker Aundona Dajo, in his ruling, said that the 6 members were recalled immediately, emphasizing that the other 7 must write an apology letter the way the 6 did before they would be remembered. Well, away from Benue State now, the Niger State government says that over 700 persons are still missing following the recent flooding in Mokwa community in Mokwa local government area of the state. Governor Umaru Bago of Niger disclosed this when he received Hamza Al-Mustafa, former chief security officer to late Sani Abacha, and his friends on a condolence visit over the recent flood in Minna. Governor Bago, represented by the Deputy Governor Yakubu Garba, also disclosed that 207 people had been confirmed dead and over 3,000 households displaced. He noted that the flood caused extensive damage with 400 houses damaged, while 283 houses and 50 shops were completely destroyed, appreciating individuals and corporate organizations for their donations and contributions, noting that the incident was a national disaster. Bago said the state government was working with professional organizations to determine the root cause of the flood and was awaiting assessment results. Earlier, Al-Mustafa said the visit was to sympathize with Niger government and the people of Mokwa following the devastating flood incident. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency has held an aircraft emergency tabletop exercise to educate aviation stakeholders on managing aircraft emergencies and disaster situations. The exercise took place at Murtala Mohammed International Airport, gathering key players in emergency management and search and rescue from various aviation agencies. Director of Air Traffic Services at NAMA, John Tayo, urged participants to take the exercise seriously for better preparedness during real emergencies. He stressed that search and rescue is a shared responsibility and organized the event into 2 sessions for greater effectiveness and engagement. Well, in another development, a federal high court in Abuja has told the National Rescue Movement it can serve court documents on the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmoud Yakubu, through someone else. Justice Obiora Egwatu, in his ruling, said the documents, including Form 48, should be given to any INEC staff member at its headquarters in Abuja. He ordered that the name of whoever receives the documents must be written in an affidavit and filed in court. This ruling followed a request from NRM's lawyer, Oladimeji Kimba, who said INEC and Yakubu ignored a court order from March 5. That order had directed them to accept the outcome of the party's emergency convention held on January 17, where Chief Edozie Njoku was elected national chairman. Kimba said it had become almost impossible to serve the INEC chairman directly. Education now. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has recommended tough penalties for 11 computer-based test centers and their registrants involved in fingerprint irregularities during registration for the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination. The Registrar of JAM, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, made this known after a brainstorming session with key stakeholders following a meeting with the affected CBT centers and registrants in Abuja. He said the measures, which still require the approval of the Education Minister, Tunji Alausa, are intended to protect the integrity of the examination process. Well, turning to other stories now, the Senate has pledged to provide robust oversight functions for the new governing board and management of the Southwest Development Commission. The chairman, Senate Committee on SWDC, Yunus Akintunde, who made the pledge at the inaugural meeting of the committee in Abuja, said that this would ensure good governance in the commission and infrastructure development of the zone. He further stated that the committee was poised to make a difference and deliver results that would leave lasting impacts on the people. Akintunde said that the first assignment of the committee was to screen the presidential nominees for the positions of chairman, managing director, and other board members of the commission, adding that the screening exercise had been scheduled for June 18. Moving on, President Bola Tinubu has commissioned the first ever bus terminal in the nation's capital, Abuja, with a declaration that his administration was taking decisive steps to bring order, accountability, and safety to public transportation. President Tinubu said the newly constructed bus terminals in the Federal Capital Territory are fitted with state-of-the-art facilities that a capital city like Abuja truly deserves. The president, who noted that the bus terminals would feature integrated commercial activities, including areas for relaxation, was particularly pleased with the inclusion of amenities such as cinema halls where commuters can unwind and other essential services. Speaking while inaugurating the Mabushi bus terminal, one of the 3 such facilities in the FCT, the president, who was represented by Speaker of the House of Representatives of Nigeria, Tajuddin Abbas, commended the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike for having the vision, dedication, and relentless pursuit of excellence, which have been instrumental in bringing the project to fruition. Earlier in his address, Wike reiterated that the real essence of the project is to enhance security by reducing the number of unauthorized vehicles, thereby reducing congestion on the road. Now, a senior pastor of House on the Rock Church, Paul Adefarasi, has turned himself in at the Lagos State Police Command following the circulation of a viral video allegedly showing him holding a firearm during an encounter with a content creator. The State Police Public Relations Officer Benjamin Hundeyin confirmed in a post on social media that Adefarasi was being interrogated over the video. Recall that a video clip emerged online last week showing Pastor Adefarasi holding a metallic object while speaking to a passerby who was recording him. After the viral video, the pastor denied allegations suggesting he brandished a firearm. Well, you're still watching News Hour on Voice of the People TV. More stories after this break. Stay with us.
The start of a beautiful good morning. It's the start of a beautiful day. Or start your day right with a healthy dose of news, fun, and inspiration. Join us on VOP this morning for the latest news, trending topics, and uplifting stories to set your day on the right vibe. From news and current events to lifestyle and entertainment, you are covered.
VOP This Morning, 8 a.m., Monday through Friday. Are you ready?
Hi, my name is Tosin Mohammed. I'm a gospel artist. Keep watching VOP TV.
Almighty Father, you are the mighty Redeemer. We've come to worship at your feet, oh Lord. This is Ayotunde Adejimo, chilling with you on the Voice of the People TV. Don't touch that remote. You are where God wants you to be. Listening to the Voice of the People TV.
The Bible says we should give.
Well, you're welcome back to News Hour. The police command in Rivers State has announced the arrest of 3 suspected cultists allegedly involved in the murder of a senior police officer in the state. Bako Agbashim, former divisional police officer of Ahwada Division, was captured and beheaded by suspected cultists in September 2023, prompting a statewide manhunt for the perpetrators. SP Grace Eringe Koko, spokesperson of the command, disclosed in Port Harcourt that the arrests followed credible intelligence on the suspects' whereabouts. Eringe Koko disclosed that following actionable intelligence, operatives from the Octopus Tactical Unit successfully arrested one of the murder suspects, known simply as K1. She stated that during the interrogation, K1 disclosed the identities of other accomplices, leading to the arrest of 2 additional suspects. The Rivers State Police Command image maker explained that the officers subsequently tracked and arrested Loveguard Goodluck in Ikata community, Ahuada East area, and Precious Olumini, who previously escaped from custody. She added that the operatives recovered a locally made single-barrel gun and 2 cartridges from Goodluck, while an English-made pump-action rifle and a locally made pistol were seized from Olumini. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has arraigned Precious Williams, director of Glosolalia Nigeria Limited and Peligend Nigeria Limited. She was arraigned for allegedly defrauding over 3,000 investors of 13.8 billion naira through a phony investment scheme. Williams was brought before S.I. Mark, judge of a federal high court in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, on a 14-count charge bordering on conspiracy, obtaining money under false pretense, and money laundering. Williams pleaded not guilty to all charges. E.K. Backham, prosecution counsel, requested a trial date and asked that the defendant be remanded in custody. Tochukwu Maduka, counsel to the defendant, prayed the court to grant his client bail to allow adequate preparation for trial. However, the prosecution opposed the bail application, arguing that it was filed prematurely before the amended charge and arraignment. The court agreed, ruling that a new bail application must be filed. Consequently, the judge ordered that Williams be remanded at the Port Harcourt Correctional Center and adjourned the case to June 17, 2025 for the hearing of the bail application. Well, switching some gears now, the European Union has reiterated its commitment to support Nigeria's efforts at tackling multi-dimensional transnational crimes and other legal matters involving the EU member state. The EU gave the assurance at a high-level meeting hosted by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice and the Federal Ministry of Justice in Abuja. Speaking at the occasion, the Vice President of the European Union Agency for Criminal Justice Cooperation, Jose de la Mata Amaya, observed that the meeting was a follow-up on the working arrangements signed between the EU and Nigeria in 2023. Amaya, who noted that crime is borderless, stated that the only way countries can succeed in their criminal investigations and put criminals behind bars is to work together. Meanwhile, EU Ambassador to Nigeria and ECOWAS Ambassador Gautier Mignot described the meeting as a strong expression of the joint willingness from Nigeria on the one hand and the UN agencies on the other to fight crime, in particular transnational organized crime, in a more coordinated and efficient way. Earlier, the Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary of the Federal Ministry of Justice, Beatrice Jedi Agba, observed that the meeting was a follow-up on the working arrangements signed between the EU and Nigeria in 2023. We're still in the news. Nigeria's Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Bosun Tijani, has been elected Vice Chair of the International Telecommunication Union Council for 2025, marking the country's first leadership role in the council in nearly 50 years. Announcing the milestone, Tijani described his election as a profound honor, expressing appreciation to the ITU leadership and member states for the trust placed in him. The ITU Council plays a central role in guiding the activities of the UN's Specialized Agency for Information and Communication Technologies, and Tijani's new role positions Nigeria at the heart of global efforts to promote connectivity, cybersecurity, and digital inclusion. He emphasized that this role aligns with Nigeria's national digital priorities, especially as outlined in the Renewed Hope agenda of President Tinubu. Now, with the lifting of ban on open campaigns for the November 8 governorship elections in Anambra State by the Independent National Electoral Commission, political parties and their candidates have jumped at the opportunity. But the Anambra State Signage and Advertising Agency, ASAA, appears to have set up another hurdle for the electioneering campaigners with the announcement of a 50 million naira fee for each of the 16 political parties billed for the election before they could mount billboards and use branded vehicles, among others. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of ANSAA, Tony Ajubono, said that the 50 million naira is a statutory fee for outdoor advertising purposes. A correspondent, Undu Opaleze, who gathered reactions on the fee, reported that the opposition parties are crying foul, alleging a subtle muzzling by the state government.
Director of Anambra State Signage and Advertising Agency, Mr. Tony Ujubong, who announced the fee at a press briefing in Awka, said political parties and support groups would not be allowed to display their campaign materials in any part of the state without a down payment. He said the purpose of this permit is to ensure orderliness, prevent visual pollution, create a level playing ground for all, and maintain professional standards in the use of public advertising and visual promotion spaces, and above all, to protect public infrastructures. But while reacting to the fee introduction, the state chairman of African Democratic Congress, Comrade Obianyo, said it is not acceptable by his party as it sounds strange and undemocratic.
How the government of Africa came about the idea of this kind of imposition of 15 million on parties, it cannot be understood. As a matter of fact, it is kind of, even in the military, I've never experienced this kind of thing. It's actually intended to intimidate other parties, to see how other parties could be pushed away from this forthcoming gubernatorial election. So our reaction is that we are rejecting such imposition. It's not acceptable by my party.
An APC stalwart in Anambra State and a frontline campaigner for Nicholas Okachukwu Uche Ekwunife ticket, Mr. Tony Uche Ezekwelu, dismissed the fee imposition as unlawful and portrays the African government and its candidate, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, as afraid of the opposition.
The government acts like an emperor. And then I see that as a way of intimidating other parties from participating in the democratic process. That particular move is anti-people, is anti-democratic, and should not and cannot be allowed to stand. Where in anywhere in the world has contesting election been equated to monetization? In fact, what he's just doing is to tell the party and anybody that if you don't have so much money, go and steal it to contest election in Anambra State. Besides, this is not a state election organized by ANSEC. This is a national election being organized by INEC. If you look at the Constitution of Nigeria, if you look at the INEC laws, if you look at the Electoral Act, you see very clearly that what the Soludo Abga government in Anambra State had done is not only anti-democratic, it goes against the Constitution of Nigeria, and therefore, by law, it should be ultra-vires.
For the State Secretary of Labour Party, Barrister John Okoli Akrika, the state agency should renounce the fee or drastically review the fee to accommodate all parties to the polls.
The truth is that that amount of money is, one, unnecessary. Two, it appears to infract the right to freedom of conscience. Three, and above all, it is a clear derogation, of the rights of political parties and their respective candidates to campaign, having been cleared by the electoral body to campaign. So taking these cumulative facts, together, one can say that what the Anambra State ASA set out to do, is in direct conflict with the rights of Anambranians to go out there and campaign, having been cleared by the requisite electoral body, in this instance INEC, to contest in the election. So it means that Anambra government is trying to enact a law that will impinge on the rights of those cleared to contest election. That I would say is unlawful, it is unconstitutional, and above all, it is anti-democratic. So what the government should do, as a matter of fact, is to, as a matter of fact, either remove that fee entirely or to drastically review it downwards.
Meanwhile, the answer boss, Mr. Ujubong, has further urged the contestants and political parties to ensure their advertising materials, including billboards and structures, were vetted and installed at appropriate places in line with the directives of the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria, ARCON. He also said only advertising practitioners registered and licensed by the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria are authorized to erect and manage such structures within the state, as permitted by the Anambra State Signage and Advertising Agency. Ndu Okbaleze, Voice of the People Television.
Undu, thank you. Let's bring it back to Lagos, where Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has assured candidates of the All Progressives Congress in Lagos July 12 local government elections that the state government will support them to emerge winners in the election. Sanwo-Olu spoke during the kickoff of the campaign for the local government elections held at the APC State Secretariat in Ogba, Lagos State. The governor, who was represented by Abimbola Salu Hundeyin, the secretary to the state government at the event, which also featured presentation of flags of party flags to the 57 chairmanship and 376 councillorship candidates of APC. Speaking at the event, Tajuddin Olusi, who is the chairman, Governance Advisory Council, urged the party's flag bearers to work for the people if elected. Handing over the flags to candidates alongside other leaders, Pastor Cornelius Ojelabi, a state APC chairman, urged the candidates to try to meet the needs of the people in education, health, infrastructure development, and youth development, as well as other critical areas if elected. Well, over now to Ondo, where the State House of Assembly has assured of proper and thorough screening of the 12 commissioner nominees whose names were forwarded to it by Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa. Speaker of the Assembly, Olamide Oladiji, who said that the legislative body would carry out the exercise between Thursday and Monday, directed the nominees to come forth with their necessary credentials. Oladiji, who lauded the governor for ensuring good governance in the state, said that the scrutiny would be overseen by the committee of the whole House. While in the south part of the country, wife of the governor of Delta State, Tobore Oborevori, has decried a trending video circulating on social media which claims that a woman who recently gave birth to quintuplets were neglected by the state government. In a statement released by her media office, the Delta State First Lady described the video as misleading and emphasized that both her office and the Delta State government had already rendered significant support to the family. Borivori urged members of the public to verify information before sharing and assured that her office remains committed to supporting vulnerable families and newborns across Delta State. Well, coming up next, foreign, business, sports, and entertainment stories after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. On the foreign scene now, the Pentagon has shifted warplanes and an aircraft carrier to the Middle East as the conflict between Israel and Iran continues. A senior U.S. defense official said that the moves by the U.S. military have been made with an eye toward protecting American troops stationed in the Middle East. The Pentagon has not been involved in Israel's offensive strikes on Israel, according to a second U.S. official who was not authorized to speak publicly. Iran has been warned that any strike on U.S. troops will be met with a strong response. The USS Nimitz aircraft carrier has dozens of warplanes aboard. It is about a week away from the Middle East, the U.S. official said. The ongoing aerial war between Israel and Iran entered its fifth day on the 17th of June as Israel pounded Iranian cities with bombs, and some Iranian missiles evaded Israel's Iron Dome defense system. More than 220 Iranians have reportedly been killed and at least 1,200 injured since the bombardment began. Well, away from the Israel-Iran war, Russia has carried out a mass missile and drone attack on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, killing at least 10 people and wounding more than 100 others, officials say. A drone smashed into an apartment block, destroying dozens of flats, and Ukraine's interior minister said the country had been hit by 440 drones and 32 missiles. Officials said initially that 15 people had died in the capital, but later revised the number down to 10, with another 2 fatalities in the southern port city of Odessa. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the attack was among the biggest on the capital since the start of Russia's full-scale war. Russia's defense ministry said it had targeted Ukraine's military-industrial complexes and that all its targets had been hit. The strikes on Kyiv, which lasted more than 9 hours, sent residents fleeing to underground shelters from before midnight until after sunrise. Russia has intensified its air attacks against Ukrainian cities in recent weeks, with a tactic of sending large waves of drones and decoys designed to overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses. And now former Senator Bob Menendez turned himself in at a federal prison in Pennsylvania to begin serving an 11-year sentence on bribery charges. The 71-year-old was convicted in July 2024 of 16 counts, including extortion, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and acting as a foreign agent. The former senior senator from New Jersey and the chair of the powerful Senate Foreign Relations Committee was found guilty of taking part in a bribery scheme that rewarded him and his wife, Nadine Menendez, with hundreds of thousands of dollars in gold bars and stacks of cash. In exchange, the senator took actions including influencing criminal investigations that benefited New Jersey businessmen and the government of Egypt and Qatar. His co-defendants, businessmen Weil Hannah and Fred Davis, were also found guilty on all counts. He is the first U.S. senator convicted of acting as an agent of a foreign government. Menendez, who represented New Jersey for more than 18 years in the U.S. Senate, resigned after the convictions. And now the Israeli forces have reportedly killed more than 51 Palestinians and wounded many more after opening fire near an aid distribution site in southern Gaza. The Hamas-run civil defense agency said Israeli troops fired on crowds near the aid site in Khan Yunis. It is the latest and potentially the deadliest of the almost daily shootings that have been taking place recently near aid distribution sites in Gaza. It has been 20 months since Israel launched a military campaign in Gaza in response to the Hamas-led cross-border attack on Israel on the 7th of October 2023, in which about 1,200 people were killed and 251 others were taken hostage. More than 55,297 people have been killed in Gaza since then, according to the territory's health ministry. While in East Africa, Kenyan protesters have clashed with club-carrying young men believed to be loyal to the government in the center of the capital, Nairobi. The demonstration held in the wake of the death in custody 10 days ago of blogger and teacher Albert Ojwang was called to demand the sacking of a top police officer. Police initially said that Ojwang died of self-inflicted wounds, but were forced to retract the statement after an autopsy found that it was likely he died after being assaulted. 2 policemen have been arrested in connection with the death. The protest comes amid simmering tension ahead of next week's first anniversary of the storming of Parliament by demonstrators. Earlier on Tuesday, there were pockets of violence in the capital's central business district when groups of young men riding motorbikes armed with whips and clubs attacked protesters. Videos show the men seemingly working side by side with police. who fired tear gas to try and disrupt the demonstrations. And here in West Africa, Mali's military junta has started building a gold refinery in partnership with the Russian conglomerate, the Yadran Group. Malian military leader, General Assimi, and Malian leader, General Assimi Goïta, said that the project will embody the West African nation's assertion of its economic sovereignty and ensure the nation benefited from its mineral wealth. He added the plant will enable Mali to refine all the gold mines on its soil, ending decades of crude export to foreign refineries. General Goïta has strengthened military and economic ties with Russia since seizing power in a coup in 2021, while reducing relations with former colonial power France and other Western nations. Mali is Africa's second biggest producer of gold, but many of its people remain poor 65 years after independence. While in business news, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria has warned that the new 12,500 naira electronic cooler parking fee imposed by the Lagos state government could lead to an increase in petrol pump prices across the state. IPMAN's National Publicity Secretary Tinubu'S made this known during an interview with newsmen in Lagos. He appealed to the government to revert the fee to 2,500 naira, describing the current charge as exorbitant and unsustainable for petroleum marketers and transporters. Ukadike explained that the rising logistics costs will inevitably be passed on to consumers, possibly triggering a fuel price hike and destabilizing supply across the state. In the meantime, mixed reactions have trailed the growing concerns that Nigeria could be heading for another round of fuel scarcity and possible pump price hikes as tensions in the Middle East and local supply chain disputes threaten petroleum product distribution. This comes even as Dangote Refinery rolls out thousands of new CNG-powered tankers, a development set to reshape the nation's fuel logistics network. VOP TV's Matthew Ogunswada has more in this report.
Nigeria may face another fuel crisis, with petrol prices projected to hit as high as 1,000 naira per litre. This follows rising tension in the Middle East and a brewing tanker standoff back home. In a major move, the Dangote Refinery unveiled 4,000 new compressed natural gas-powered fuel tankers, a step that could disrupt existing operations and reshape Nigeria's downstream logistics. But the development has sparked resistance as the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, NATO, announced its immediate withdrawal from lifting petroleum products from the Dangote facility. These decisions stem from an unresolved dispute with the Lagos state government over operational regulations and logistics orders. As Voice of the People TV, we are on the street to ask citizens how they are coping with the possibility of yet another fuel hike and what impact this looming crisis could have on their daily lives.
It affects me a lot. I'm a salary earner. My salary is not up to 200k. From my house to where my office, before 54, within let's say 50,000. Now, the minimum I spend to my office now is 70 to 80,000. So the remaining one is not enough for me and my immediate family. So they should just please help us to reduce the price because it affects everything.
Yeah, the increase in fuel price has affected a lot of things in Nigeria, ranging from transportation to sometimes you hear people say it's been affecting the price of foods and foodstuffs in the country. So my advice to the government here is to reduce the price, yes, but at the same time, sometimes the fault doesn't always come from the government. Sometimes traders themselves, they use it as an advantage, they take it as an opportunity to increase the price of foodstuffs, saying always blame the government for it. So sometimes also from them, but sometimes the government should also like reduce the price of foodstuffs. Yes.
This present government cannot do anything. I'm telling you, it's politics. Right now, as I'm telling you, Port Harcourt refinery is refining 80%, and we have the crude there. The why is it still up? So I don't see the reason why fuel should be. In fact, the cost of things are high is because of this fuel increment and diesel increment. For example, from Benue, for you to transport yam from Benue to Lagos, you know how much it takes you. Because the transporters will add their diesel money, the driver will tax you on the maintenance of the car, they will add everything on top of that yam. How will the masses cope? So government should look into this fuel something and bring it down. I think the prices of things will come down.
With petrol prices already straining household budgets, the fear of 1,000 naira per litre is really alarming and raising serious concerns. However, many Nigerians want the government to look into the current fuel price hike happening in the country, as well as look for concrete solution in order to ease the burden on citizens. Matthew Ogunswada, reporting for Voice of the People TV.
Matthew, thank you. Still business, the Corporate Affairs Commission says it has reviewed some of its service fees to enhance service quality, improve efficiency, and sustain digital transformation in its operations. The Commission said this in a public notice it issued in Abuja. It said the increment, which will take effect from the 1st of August, reflected prevailing economic realities and rising operational costs. The Commission added that the review was to sustain prompt and technology-driven service delivery for Nigerians. The Commission assured the public of its continued commitment to delivering high-quality services and maintaining the integrity of Nigeria's corporate registry. And now a deal removing some trade barriers between the UK and US has been signed off by President Donald Trump. The move will bring into force parts of an agreement agreed between the two countries last month and reduce tariffs on UK cars being shipped to the US. It comes after weeks of talks to implement parts of the pact, which the UK government hopes will shield British businesses from the impact of Trump's tariffs. But the deal includes a 10% levy on most UK goods, including cars, and did not address the expected removal of charges on steel imports. Speaking at the G7 summit in Canada, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer called the move a very important day for both countries. The pact, initially agreed last month, is the first the White House has announced since it imposed wide-ranging tariffs on various goods entering America earlier this year. Trump has raised taxes on goods entering the U.S. in a series of rapid-fire announcements in an attempt to encourage businesses and consumers to buy more American-made goods. It sparked financial turmoil and alarm around the world, including the UK, where car manufacturers and steel makers rely on the U.S. as a key destination for exports. Well, in sports news now, the Nigeria Football Federation has set in motion a media campaign nicknamed Mission X to mobilize and galvanize Nigerian ball fans at home and in the diaspora to support the Super Falcons' quest for a 10th Africa Cup of Nations title in Morocco next month. NFF General Secretary Mohamed Sanusi, who made this known in a statement from the United States, said that Africa's most decorated women national team is heading to Morocco to win the title. The Super Falcons also won the lone ticket granted Africa for the FIFA Women's World Cup finals in 1991 China and 1995 Sweden, but there was no tournament format Africa Cup of Nations competition in those years. Well, so sports, La Liga president Javier Tebas has doubled down on his criticism of FIFA's expanded Club World Cup, saying it is objective to eliminate the competition from the football calendar. Tebas said last week the tournament is completely absurd and went one step further after watching 25 minutes of Chelsea's 2-0 win over LAFC, which he compared to a friendly. The Club World Cup, which is taking place across the United States, kicked off on June 14 with Inter Miami's goalless draw against Al Ali and runs until July 13, when the final will take place. And in the world of entertainment, disgraced R&B singer R. Kelly was rushed to hospital after suffering an overdose in prison. The 58-year-old singer, known for hits such as I Believe I Can Fly and Ignition, is currently serving a 30-year sentence for racketeering and sex trafficking. He is said to have collapsed at the Federal Correctional Institute in Butner, North Carolina, and was then rushed to Duke University Hospital for urgent treatment. Legal filings claim that the Grammy Award-winning artist became faint and dizzy after being prescribed multiple medications by prison staff, including anxiety medication. The filings submitted by Kelly's attorney, Bill Brindley, argued that he had been placed in solitary confinement on June 10 and given medication by staff before suffering the medical episode 3 days later. Well, still entertainment, Diddy's freak-off tapes were shown to jurors inside the courtroom of his sex trafficking trial. Prosecutions played sections of 3 videos, each just over 10 minutes in length, with jurors giving headphones to listen to the audio. Jurors were played around 30 seconds of each clip, and it is reported that sex noises could be heard coming from the headphones. Diddy's latest attempt to gather a mistrial was again thrown out by the judge. The Bad Boy Records founder and his legal team filed a letter to Judge Arun Subramanian claiming that the prosecution are attempting to remove a juror from the trial based on his race. Well, that wraps it up for us on News Hour, but before we go, a quick look at the headlines. Benue declares Wednesday work-free day. Also, Senate leadership to accompany Tinubu to Benue. Speaker orders immediate release of arrested protesters. And Niger government says 700 persons still missing after Mokwa floods. Court orders substituted service on INEC chairman. And Ade Farasi turns himself in at Lagos police headquarters. On the foreign scene, U.S. sends warplanes aircraft carrier to Middle East. In business, Ipman warns new fee may trigger petrol price in hike in Lagos. In sports news, NFF launches Mission X campaign for Super Falcons. In the world of entertainment, R. Kelly hospitalized after near-fatal overdose in prison. Do also subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we have Voice of the People TV. On other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. I am Vivian Uguche, and thank you for watching.